Okay. Um, we might not have big audience today, but nevertheless, we will be discussing the topic, which is very important and dear to my heart. I'd like to welcome Father Olivier from the Dominican Order and also a Sa Church, which I prefer to use its French name, Notre-Dame-de-l'Heure de Mossoul. Thank you for coming. And Ahmed Fethi from Mossoul Space, who will be telling us amazing stories of the revival of the Mosulli youth and their role in the revival of Mosul. I am Omar Mohammed, a historian from Mosul, but not in Mosul currently. I work as an advisor with the UNESCO, and today we will focus on the revival of the Asa Church. I don't know how to introduce people. I believe that they are better introducing themselves than myself. Therefore, I would like to ask Father Olivier to introduce himself, and next will be Ahmed.
Well, thank you, Omar. My greetings to all. I guess that you invited me not to speak about theology or philosophy or whatever, but to speak about So actually, yes, I'm in charge for the Dominican Order, on behalf of the Dominican Order, about this rehabilitation program of the Dominican convent. His name is Al-Sa, but also Camiseta Latin. There are many names for the same place, and some people are calling it the Church of the Clock, because it was the first clock in Mesopotamia. So I have been living in Mosul in 2003, 2004, and I came back to Iraq in 2019 in order to fulfill this mission and some additional ones.
Thank you so much. Ahmed, please.
Hello, everyone. I am Ahmed Fethi. I'm from Mosul, and I currently work as a project coordinator with Mossoul Space. In 2014, I was part of a program called ILEP, Iraqi Young Leader Exchange Program. Our main focus was on civil engagement and how to do recovery for the economy. And during ISIS times, I was out of the city, but after the liberation, I came back. I worked with an NGO that specialized on mine action and clearing UXO and awareness against mines. And currently I work with Mossoul Space as a project coordinator, and I'm so happy and glad to be with you all.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. Father Olivier, what is the first thing you say when someone asks you what is a Sa church or monastery or convenient? What would you say when someone asks this question?
I would say it's first of all, it is a crossroad, not only at a crossroad between Al Farouk and Ninawa Street, but it is a crossroad. It is a place of encounter between man and God as a church, but also encounter among cultures and people for centuries. I remember one Iraqi civil servant telling me, welcome to Mosul. I told him, well, here we are for 4 centuries, so I'm welcoming you into our priory, our convent. So I think this Al-Sa Church is also recalling us that the time is a gift from God. And now we are responsible of the use we are making of this time, this gift that is common to people from all denominations, all cultures, all origins. This is very specific for about Al-Sa. It has always been a place of encounter for centuries, also a place of culture, education, and social impact for the city and the region.
Thank you. when we look at as you said, it's a crossroad. It's indeed a crossroad. When we look at the city of Mosul, there is always, even with the difference of the time when it was established, but the people of Mosul always see the city, and every city has its own symbols. They always look at a Sa'a church and a Nuri mosque, and this crossroad is very important also for the rehabilitation, not only of the physical space, but the spirit of the people. Ahmed, as a young person from Mosul who has been working in the city, being involved in youth projects, how do you see the rehabilitation and the recovery of such sites and their importance to you as a person who endured, as many other people in the city, this kind of violence and violent memories, if I would say?
I think it's great that you mentioned how each city has its own landmark. I think this is really great, and this, unfortunately, after the ISIS takeover of Mosul, we have had these landmarks and these sites destroyed. I think the effect, like I myself, I was in America in 2014 when I heard about the destruction of the Jonah Mosque in Nabi Yunus, and I was crying the whole day. Like, it's one day I'm just crying because it was really hard for me to just come back to the city and see my city without this landmark, as if it never existed, all the memories, everything. So I think the rehabilitation work and the reconstruction of these landmarks is of great importance to youth, actually to all the classes of the community, because it's an identity. It's actually more than identity. It's just that this is what represents us, the people of Mosul. And I mean, if you go over the fifth of all of the bridges of Mosul, the two landmarks that you will see is Al Sa'a. Alongside it is the minaret of Al Hadba. So not having these two, actually, like each time crossing these bridges and not seeing these landmarks and sites really affects. And I think once these are restored, it will be a huge moral boost to everybody, and it will also give a big advantages and a big support to the Christian of Mosul, and also the people of Mosul themselves, either Muslims or other communities, that they are really not what they have been represented badly by ISIS or whoever just was ruining havoc and destruction on the city for the past 2 decades. So I think it's of great importance that these landmarks are constructed again. I think it will really make everyone in the city proud to see these landmarks are back again to life.
Thank you again, Ahmed. Father Olivier, when we think, or myself, when I read about the history of Mosul, when I remember the Latin Church, which was in its very beginning was established as a health center. It was providing the people with the immediate need of health and medical needs. The people of Mosul remember this, and I read in many manuscripts how important the existence of the Dominican order there in a very difficult time when Mosul needed this health sector. We also remember the place with its cultural importance. We remember it with being the first printing press place, the first printing house that started publishing books. When obtaining a manuscript was very expensive at that time, the Dominican order brought this printing press and started printing the books, publishing in French, Arabic, and many other languages. We remember it also with the prominent personalities from Mosul, not necessarily Christian. When I read that one of the best doctors in the city actually received his education in this church. When I read someone who assumed a very high-ranking position in the government during that time, he graduated from that church. When I asked the elderlies, where did you get your education? Where did you receive your education? They will always say, it's the Dominican church school. It's always there. Who was your teacher? He would say, someone from the Latin church. How did you learn French? They say, it's in the Latin church. How did you learn the Syriac, the other language? It seems that it played an enormous role in the city of Mosul, but not only this. When we read also about the very specific history of this, some kind of like unrest between Christian communities during that time, the Dominican order also played a very positive role in bringing Christians together, not only making a bridge between Muslims and Christians, but bringing the Christians together themselves. How can we, after this damage happened, how can we recreate this memory with a more effective and prominent role in the city of Mosul, using the reconstruction as a way to establish this kind of understanding that is unfortunately missing in the city?
Yes, Omar, you read much more about our church than myself, since this is your work, your job. But what you are saying is right. It's true. When I'm discussing with Maher, who is in charge of the Sunni Waqf for the Great Mosque, he's always asking me, when is my church going to ring a bell again, the bells for the hours, etc. And he went to school with us, so they had the current patriarch of the Chaldeans as professor, or Abu Nafiye, or some others. But now 40% of the Iraqi population is under 14 years old. So we should work for them, for the youngsters. It's very good to be rooted into history, and the history of Iraq is much longer than the one of the Dominicans. But now I think our role is to try to accompany the desire of the young Iraqi to rediscover their own roots and to empower themselves. So what is very positive in what's going on currently in this rehabilitation process, even if it's not going as well as fast as we would like to see it, and this is already created unity between Christians, Muslims, and all the others. Everybody would like that to be finished already, and it's not taking place yet. But we are working together. Together, we are facing the same difficulties. When we are sitting in the joint technical committee, we are together, representing mosques, representing the government, representing the churches, and we are together facing problems of iron, concrete, water, electricity, as you just saw. Yeah, we are facing the same difficulties, and this is what is trying to re-establish, to rebuild trust, first of all. After Daesh, the first victim was probably the trust between people from the same community, people from different communities. And now when the journalists are asking us, are the Christians, will the Christian come back? I'm asking them, are the Kurdish back? Are even the old Maslawis back to Mosul? I'm not sure, but that's not my task. My task is to do whatever I can to help those who want to come back and to do something to do it, and also to work with the people on site. As you rightly said, we established the first school, first of all, and school for girls. I see that one Dominican sister is among us tonight, or today for her, because she's participating from the States. And the Dominican sisters established, together with the brothers, the first school for girls in Mesopotamia. And then they established this school for teachers who went then in the valley, etc. And this is something that is not needed today. Today, there is an educational system, but we can provide an opportunity for Christians, Muslims, Yazidi, Kurdish, Arabic people to work together with a common goal. So at this stage, we are restoring stones, but our desire would be to restore also common practices in cultural fields, in social fields, etc. And for this, as we did in the past, we will not do this alone. We've got to do this with partners.
Thank you. On this and on the partnership, I always believe that the best partners are the people of the city, especially the youth. And this takes me to Ahmed. Ahmed, how can we create this space of collaboration with spaces like the Latin Church, with An-Nouri Mosque? And there has been a suggestion, and I've been working on. After looking into the French archives, there has been a suggestion from the French Council in the 1930s that France is ready to establish a green path connects both the An-Nouri Mosque and the Sa'a Church. Unfortunately, it wasn't accepted in the 30s. But then I started looking into the maps and I saw that it's possible to create this green path. But if we weren't able to create a physical green path, how can we create a green path that brings the people together? That when you look at the An-Nouri Mosque, you also look at the Sa'a Church, but in a more innovative way, using the creativity, using also, I know that you are from Mossoul space where creativity is actually prominent there. How can we also apply the new technology to enhance life in Mossoul and use the revival of the city for a better future?
I think that the idea of creating a green space between the two is really great. And it's unfortunately that it's not been accepted before. But I really agree with Father Olivier, what he said about enhancing the trust between the people, because this after ISIS, the gap was really not having trust within the communities. So building the trust is really essential, and this will make people come back to the city regardless of their background. So coming back to the question, I think maybe like technology could be really used in some sense, in that the activities that's happening inside the mosque could be somehow viewed inside the church and vice versa. Maybe that's the thing. So when you are inside the Lady of the Hour church, you could see what's happening in the mosque, and when you are in the mosque, you could see what's happening in the church.
I think this is an important idea, but we need to ask Father Olivier of how does he think about this.
I don't know about technology. If we need to have monitors to see what's going on the other side, but it is very clear that in terms of landmark, when you are on the roof of Al-Sa'a and you look at Al-Nouri, it's like having one member of your family missing. We cannot see the minaret. We see the wounded building of Al-Nouri Mosque, and this is really suffering for us. Our landscape is made of mosques and churches all together, and we never had in Mosul only one denomination. It has never been the case, but during 3 years. It wasn't always peaceful, but we can choose, and this is our responsibility to decide what we want to do. You see that you didn't mention it, Omar, but we printed the first Kurdish grammar in Al-Sa'a. So it's not only a bridge between the West and the East, it's also a bridge from the North and the South, because this place was in common. And it's not neutral. Neutrality doesn't exist. But Mosul has always been a crossroad. Today, when the water shortage is increasing in the region, having the Tiger River there is very important. But it has always been the case between empires, between the Ottoman and the others. It has always been a crossroad, a place of encounter. So in terms of technology, yeah, you're right. I fully agree with you. The first clock was high technology. It's funny for us because when we want to know what time is it, we take our cell phone. But at that time, when the Empress offered this clock to all the people of Mossoul, placing it on the church, but for everybody, Muslims, Christians, Yazidi, all together, it was high technology. Same for the printing plant. It was high technology. So now what can we do? We can obviously save the heritage, and this is very important because the heritage destroyed cannot be recreated. But we've got also to be open to new technologies and to new initiatives. And clearly for us, we hope that this place, Al-Sa, will be once again a place of worship, a place for prayer, okay? But also a place of culture and a place of social activities. And for this, we will have to be creative together with the people who want to invest.
Thank you. We will help with this technology matters as our house is in the middle between a Sa'a church and the Nuri Mosque, and we are putting on the top a kind of like a glass cabin where you can see the whole city from the top of the building, and there will be a 24/7 camera live streaming from Mosul. There is something I wanted to also ask you about, Father Olivier, on the current situation of the church as well as the prayer house. I believe that the visit of the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, resulted in a very good response to restoring the prayer house of the church. Beside the Revive the Spirit of Mosul that is building and rehabilitating the church itself. How does this contribution, as well as the Latin church, plays a role in keeping the attention of the world focused on Mosul? How can we also help? How can the people of Mosul help when they come to you? What kind of help do you need in this church to make it lively and continue to become, beside being a place of worship, but also a cultural hub for the people of Mosul and the world?
Well, the first to reopen the door and to come to Mosul against all advices was Pope Francis. No Pope came to Iraq before this one in 2 millenniums. So that was really a historical visit. And no head of state was coming to Mosul for decades. So the fact that the Pope, who was at the same time prominent religious personality, the head of 1.5 billion believers on earth, came to Mosul, and not to only the new city, but to the old city, the most destroyed part of it, means that Mosul deserves it. It is to show his interest for not only this place, but first of all, those people, the suffering people there. Then, having done this, the door was open for some others to follow. And we truly appreciated that the French president came to this place that has been for centuries a place of encounter between also France and Iraq, France and Mesopotamia at that time under the Ottoman Empire. So yes, definitely, it is possible now for prominent political and economical figures to come. Will the people come back? I don't know. I'm not a prophet, and I'm just trying to follow God's commandments. That's enough for me. I'm just a normal, basic human being. But what I assume is that if we want the people who are coming back from outside, from the Christian villages or from the Kurdish autonomous region, are coming back because they've got a job, because they've got economic perspectives. And same for the youth of all communities. They are facing the same struggle. They are also, they are listening to the same music, they are dressed the same way, and their concerns are the same. So economy is part of it. And I hope that those visits are showing that Mossoul is not a subject, but is a player now. Not just a question of concern, but Maslawi, people from Mossoul can be players in the game, economically, but also culturally and socially.
Many thanks again. If anyone has any questions, please just raise your hand. We will be getting questions from you. Ahmed, as you heard what Father Olivier was saying, it is always about being a player in this future of the city, giving the increasing number of entrepreneurships in Mosul. Speaking from a cultural heritage perspective, what are the needs for the youth to be aware of the importance of the cultural heritage and its revival? How can cultural heritage play a role in increasing or creating more entrepreneurships in the city? And is this part of the future plans of the development of Mosul space and many other areas of entrepreneurships in the city?
I think cultural heritage is already playing a role. I mean, with the government of Iraq easing a bit the issuing the visa for countries coming from the EU and US, we have been witnessing lots of people who are visiting the city, and who are also witnessing people who are coming to the old city and displaying the picture of the old city to the entire world and what's been happening in Mosul, what happened. So, and also with the emergence, with the coming of these people, there has been lots of initiative from the people of Mosul, from the youth, to create teams that are either guides or offering translation services to the people that are coming to the city, and also to show them these places. I think there has been 2 to 3 teams that have emerged recently, which are working with people who are visiting the city. In addition to that, it's good that you mentioned the role of Mosul Space, because one of the enterprises that emerged out of Mosul Space is called They, which is basically copying and the historical landmarks of not only Iraq and but also the entire Iraq. And actually, he's been in the market for the past, he's been competing in the market for the past 1 to 2 years. So and to increase the role of entrepreneurship, as Father Olivier said, it's actually a collaboration work. And I'll come back to this later, but one thing that's been missing on which why the people of Mosul were not players, were not part of it, they were just people acted upon, is just because there has never been this space to come and show the world who we really are. I mean, for the past 2 decades, it's been continuous wars, continuous terrorism happening everywhere, in which if you spoke or you try to do an initiative or you try to change something, the answer will always be something negative. So it was really hard, like you were just witnessing what's been happening with very little ability to change or do something. And that's actually one of the things that changed it, and one of the really positive things that we should work on and emphasize on, which is how can we collectively now be actors. I mean, it's not just a governmental work, but also the youth, the University of Mosul, the innovation hubs that are currently working, which are the station and Mosul, and the craftsmen, the artisans. So it's actually a collaborative work in which all people should be involved in order to change the state. I mean, what happened has happened. I think the people of Mosul have already absorbed the shock, and actually they were so eager to come up with the new solutions and idea to create a positive impact and a positive change. And this is actually one of the things that we witness when people visiting from other countries visiting Mosul. And I mean, I remember back then I had an envoy coming from the German embassy, and then they were telling me what's happening in Mosul is just like what's been happening in Dresden in Germany after the World War II. So the amount of damage is really strong. So But also at the same time, I remember within the few days of deliberation, there has been many initiatives to just really show the world who we really are and to create this sense of a trust for all the communities that they are working back again. So I think it's a collaborative work, and it's also economy with creating this sense of trust in order for the people to come back. So I think we will be also soon we will be creating a hackathon within Mossoul space. The main theme of the hackathon will be on tourism and what are the problems that are facing the sector and how to come with the new ideas that are going to solve the problems that the people who are visiting the people who visit the Mosul face. So I think that will also have some kind of impact on the recovery and the create of more sustainability plans for the future, and which will in turn affect the cultural heritage of the city.
Many thanks, Ahmed, for these important insights, and we hope the innovation sector in Mosul will develop more and more. There are three questions actually from three people. But first, I would like to start with this question from Tahani to Father Olivier. She's asking about the possibility of teaching interfaith in Mosul, interfaith dialogue, and a possibility of like resulting in this, having this revival, resulting in creating a school that focuses on the interfaith dialogue.
So yeah, they are. This is deeply rooted into the Dominican tradition, and you may know that, for example, in Egypt, for 2 centuries nearly, we are running the Dominican Institute for Oriental Studies. Yeah, this is the English translation, Institut Dominicain d'études orientales in French. And that is, this institute is run by the Dominicans and hosting a huge library and working with Al-Azhar University. So the purpose is not dialogue, but the practice is dialogue on a daily basis. It means that we are working with professors and with students of Al-Azhar University, not to teach them about Christianity, but to show them, to give them access to their ancient own tradition. So this is one example of what is being done by the Dominicans. So in the future, we don't know what we will be able to do, but that could be an example of good practice. In the past, we had a big library giving access to researchers, to resources in philosophy, in theology, in history, etc., about the region, from the region, and also about what was going on outside. Now the needs are different. People who want to get access to foreign information can go through the internet. It's shorter and than to come to our place. But if you want to encounter and to work and to build a mutual understanding and a mutual knowledge, definitely it is possible. And by myself, I have been teaching at Mossoul University 17 years ago, so I would be delighted to if we can renew this tradition. Al-Azhar has been always rooted into education, and the House of Prayer was hosting the first training center for teachers, female teachers in Iraq. So definitely it is our tradition. We are not only rebuilding something, we are rehabilitating. It means that we want to go back to this kind of activity. Then why not with the Mossoul University? That can be with other partners, that can be through maybe reprinting what was printed in the past in Mossoul in this very place. And why not then starting programs, but those programs have to be rooted in the current needs of the population of today.
Thank you. I believe the idea of reprinting all the also old manuscripts and probably the early printed books is important, and I hope this will be taken in consideration. You also mentioned the library, and I will ask you later about this and how the library can be restored, because you rarely read a PhD dissertation in Mosul University or in the rest of Iraq without having on the first of acknowledgement and attribution someone thanking the library of the Latin Church for providing them with resources. It is very important space for everyone. Mr. Saud Al-Umari, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Omar. Good evening, everybody. My name is Saud Al-Umari. I'm an architect and I am a senior advisor to the UNESCO and member in the Joint Technical Committee. Thank you, Omar, for bringing up the Green Bridge. Not so many people knows about this old history of the idea. Actually, when I was working on the development of the urban renewing of Mosul, old city of Mosul, in 2007, 2008, I discussed the idea, but the main problem was the private properties. So it was a bit difficult to create a direct route, though till now there is a possibility within the urban fabric to connect through, not through Al Farouk Street, but through the narrow alleys of Mosul between the church and between the new extension part of the Al Nouri Mosque. That could be considered, and thank you very much for bringing up this point. The other point, we all know that the oldest printing house was established by the Dominican in 1856 or I think 56. So is there any idea, Father, to recreate this idea, to make a kind of a book fair or something like that within the church? That's first. Second, after the renovation of the church in the night as an art gallery under the supervision of the late artist, our Maslawi great artist, Mahar Harbi. That could be a very good idea to use the facility as a point of attraction, not just to the youth, to the community. I do remember very well when they started the gallery, they asked all the art collectors and from all the families of Mosul to participate with their collections. And it was a really very bonding event at that time. So maybe you can consider that as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I believe, Father Olivier, there are a few questions to you.
Yeah, but I don't want to monopolize the floor because Ahmed has things to say and maybe opinions about this also. The art galleries now, I just saw that Ali Al-Baroudi was publishing many things about what's going on now at the university, for example. And maybe Al-Sar has been among the first one to open, and because there was a need. Now, if we are rehabilitating the art gallery, who is still in place and in good shape, what we are going to do, definitely, if there is a demand and if there are people willing to make use of it for exhibitions, etc., I think we will consider that, and according to the feasibility, we will be very pleased to do it. Then Mar Harbi, yeah, he was a key figure and a very loved one in Mosul, from Mosul, in Iraq and abroad. And now we hope that following his steps, there will be other creativity exploding from Mosul and giving back this reputation to our city. Then about the books, we don't know how we will proceed since many books has been burnt during the last events. We don't have the diversity we had in the past. Some manuscripts has been saved. Yes, that's true. And we digitalized a lot of the books. What we hope is to be able to reprint books from the Presse Dominicaine de Mossoul. For that, we will need partners, obviously, because we don't have budget for this. The Dominican Order is not a business company. But if there is an interest, definitely this place can be also a place of encounter for conferences, for a kind of seminar in order to exchange. And also for artistic activities that can be music, that can be painting, sculpture, etc. Since it is the tradition of this place.
Thank you, Ahmed. Would you like to add something?
I think what Father Olivier mentioned, and also the question by Mr. Saud is really great, because what's also this is just because we didn't get the chance to fully explore all of the religions and what practices they do. So making this initiative inside religious landmarks is really great, because it's also a chance for us to explore for example, what's happening in a mosque, or what's happening in maybe a Yazidi temple, or a Christian church. So this is really good. I remember back then when I went inside a church in Kentucky, America, and I was really astonished, because it was my first chance to actually visit a church, and we have only seen churches before only in the films and news. So it was really great to explore and know. And I think many people like me would be really interested to visit and explore these places. And so definitely such initiative will really help to make, because in order for us to have more tolerance with each other, we really need to understand each other. We need to understand religions as they are, not as what's viewed or as what we falsely understand. So these practices would help a lot in making the bond stronger between people.
Thank you. It's really our hope to see that both Al-Nouri Mosque and the Sa'a Church and many other spaces in the city can contribute to the cultural life. We also shouldn't forget the ancient Nineveh and the importance of also the new discoveries and the revival of the Asarhadun Palace. There is a great also discovery. It might be, according to the German archaeologists, it might be the place where supposedly Prophet Yunus stood before the Assyrian king. So this brings another importance to the creativity of dealing with cultural heritage of Mosul. Mr. Faris, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Dr. Omar, and thanks for all. Good evening, Father Olivier. I'm very happy all times when I meet you, even on Zoom. Really, I wrote in my book, Mosul, Memory of a City. I wrote about the Latin Church, and something I wrote that about the large library which the Dominican Father was established, and also what I wrote that the Dominican Fathers had established the first stone printing press in Mosul, and maybe the first in Iraq to use wooden block, and that was in year 1858. And they later, in year 1963, changed to a modern print press, which was brought from Italy. Really, many things that the Dominican fathers did in Mosul. exactly want to say like what Mr. Saud said. I think it's very important to make maybe gallery or establish a small museum in the church. This will to put in it maybe even if you have burned books, no problems. It will be. It is a history. It's history of the church, history of the Dominican fathers, it's history of the city of Mosul. This I think is very important, and it's a chance now when the church is restoration by the UNESCO, maybe to establish something like that, if it's possible. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Doctor.
Thank you so much. I believe there is a question from Julie. If I understood your question correctly, she is probably asking, are there Christians coming from outside Iraq to visit Mosul and to either do service or do work or like be present in Mosul? Please correct me, Julie, if I misunderstood your question.
Yes.
Yes, that's what she was asking. Yes.
For example, Pope Francis, you see, he's a Christian coming from abroad.
That's a great example, of course.
That is not the only example, since for centuries, Christians are coming from abroad to Mosul, not necessarily as tourists, but usually to work with Maslawi. There has always been exchanges in terms of economic exchanges or cultural ones. If you allow me, this is also something we would like to revive. When I came back, so in 2019 to Mosul, I thought the city was totally destroyed. And I was so pleased to see that we still had a roof on the top of the church. And everybody was telling me it is a disaster. I saw only what was positive, to still have a roof and to still have the surrounding were very much damaged and people suffered so much, but life was possible again. And now I see many of the benefits of the reconstruction. When I look back 2 years ago, the streets were broken. There was no water pipes. There was no electricity network. I'm not saying that we've got full-time electricity. This is still the common reality, but there was a lot of improvements since then. And each week when I'm having a look around our place, I see that there are improvements and people rebuilding, etc. Now we are rebuilding a lot of buildings, but to do what? And this is where I am not sure to be very enthusiastic about a museum. A museum is about something dead. And we don't want to be in a museum or in a zoo. We don't want to be just some elements, some remains of a lost culture. We think that reviving the spirit of Mosul is a very well chosen motto, not only for this UNESCO program, but for us. If we want to revive the spirit, we've got to find new opportunities and to build now from what we get. So, for example, a few weeks ago, there is a youth group in the parish, so from the church in Kurdistan, and they asked to come to Al-Sa'a for a day of prayer. Some were born in Mosul, and some have not come back to Mosul for since Daesh. Some others were born in Kurdistan, and they have never been to Mosul. They knew Mosul less than myself, a French citizen. That was a shame. I was really astonished. And so that was a very good opportunity to bring those Christians, and they were young guys and girls in their 20s, to Mosul at their request. And then they had an opportunity to speak with the people working already at Al-Sa'a, Muslims and Christians all together, and to see that they were sharing the same preoccupation, the same Maslawi language, etc. And that was very important. So what I hope is that we will not be limited to a museum. It is very important, as you rightly say, to keep the history, even burn books. And this is one of our concerns in this rehabilitation process. We don't want to erase the past, even the fact that this past has been violent. I've got in my memory, in my brain and in my heart, the memory of some bombs exploding at the crossroad, etc., when I was living there. And my desire is not to revive this, but we've got to keep the memory, to make the right choices when we can. And this is very important that we do that all together.
Thank you. I think what you mentioned about the museum is also very important and needs to be discussed several times. I myself against the museumization of communities. Declaring or establishing a museum for Christians in Mosul could be the end of the existence of Christians or any other community. It is important, however, to keep the remembrance and to create activities of remembrance, of memory, trying to teach what happened in more creative way, using the past as a tool to enhance the future. And there is also another element, whether it's related to the church or to the mosque. It is very important that also we show the people the importance of the religious element of the space, that it is not only a place to visit. I believe many European cathedrals are already suffering from this, that it is becoming more a museum than a worship place. But to people in Mosul and in many other places in the East, it has completely different value and meaning. We don't want it to become just a museum for people to visit, take a selfie, and that's it. No, we want to bring back the spirit, as you said, Father Olivier. We have only a few minutes left, and I give the floor to first Ahmed, and then we close with Father Olivier to answer, both of you to answer this question. What do you want the people to know about As-Sa'a Church now? And if they want, again, I asked this question before, but if they want to help, whether they are from Mosul, from Iraq, from the rest of the world, what they should do and how they can help.
Sorry, the question was not really clear. I had an internet lag. What people outside of Iraq?
We receive requests from people saying, how can we help? What can we do? They don't have a clear idea of what kind of help they should provide to Mosul. What would you tell them? What is the best way for them to help?
I think many people, especially, and this is really, really sad, and especially in Iraq, they really don't know that Mosul had all of these people living together in coexistence, and actually things were, to a certain degree, were really good, and people were sharing the daily life, as Father Olivier said, in all of its aspects. So I think it's the responsibility of us as citizens of Mosul and Nineveh to show the world, and not only show the world, but also to live it, to truly embody this personality we want to show the world, that we are really who we say we are, that we are really living in coexistence and tolerance and understanding. And that's the main point, that we have to show the world, that we really understand the differences. We really understand that at the end of the day, we are the people of Mosul. We share the same ID, the same citizenship. So this is one of the responsibility that we as the people of Mosul should do. And when we reflect this idea to the world, they themselves will be more intrigued to see and come and visit the city and the Church of As-Sa'a, which is really symbolic with it being the printing place, also a place for healing the patients, etc. So I think that people could also help in a way that they could spread the word, they could spread what's happening, they could maybe we help them to know about, and this we could maybe think of more about an innovative way of how to show the world our places, because not only people in Iraq, but also the world and those interested to visit Iraq, they really don't know that people are living and not just people getting exiled or people getting terrorized to leave the place. So it's also, again, a collaborative work with everybody. And I think people outside of Iraq could really help by spreading the word that actually we exist, people of different background exist, and it's happening, even if it's maybe happening at a slow but a steady step. And this could, with the days, could flourish and could eventually help spread the word to the Christians or whoever left Mosul before to come back, visit the city. And with the development of, and the stability and the development of the economy, this will also give them a great chance to come and actually stay and live in the city.
Grazie mille, Ahmed. Father Olivier.
Well, yes, I can just add a few elements to what Ahmed said. I fully agree with what he said. I would say first, from the people of Mosul, I think the way they are welcoming the Christians, for example, the few Christians who came back, around 70 families, the sisters, Abuna Rahid, and some others, is very important. And the fact that they are not welcoming the Christians as guests, but as brothers and sisters, because this is what they are. Everybody is coming from Mosul, speaking the same dialect and having the same memory. So sharing this memory is good, but then it is to build the future. The second thing is that the Maslawi people can be proud of themselves. You know, Mossoul is a little bit like Lyon in France. People are proud of themselves, but they are a little bit shy sometimes to share or to open their doors. Be confident. You've got plenty to show to the world. You can be proud of what you've got, and you can share it and host a lot of visitors for tourism, for education. Remember, Mosul was the highest place for education in the region. So it can be back playing this role back, I think, in the future, and not in long term, but now. Then from outside, same. You know, I'm coming back to the Pope visit, but during the Pope visit, a former CNN correspondent in the region called me, and she told me, it is the first time I'm reporting about Iraq for something positive for years. And she told me, I cried when I realized that. So we've got to report about what is positive. Yes, we are struggling for many things, and it will not be bright and green and pleasant tomorrow. But we are taking a lot of initiatives, new technologies. For example, we are planning we are advocating to have some solar panels hidden on the roof of our place, because they are telling us, yeah, but churches and mosques are not paying electricity. Yeah, but we don't have electricity. So we prefer to have something we can get than something that is not, and it's not for 1 year, 2 years, it's for 40 years probably. So new technologies, greening the city, etc. We can do things that can be good practices, not only for Mosul, not only for Iraq, but for the world. And reconciliation and building peace is one of them. Destroying is very easy. Anybody can do it. Rebuilding is a challenge. And I think people of Mosul can do it. We can do that together. May God bless us in doing this.
I mean, thank you. I believe it's yes, despite how difficult it is to rebuild, but there is also a joy in the recovery itself. Witnessing all of this recovery is very important. I believe it creates different experiences, but also most importantly, it creates new memories. And that's what we hope to see happening in the city. Those young generation deserve better memories, and I hope they will be able to get this. Thank you so much for your important insights, Father Olivier and Ahmed Fathi, and thank you all to the attendees. grazie mille. I wish you buona serata, buonasera, and whatever language you prefer. Bonne soirée and مساكم سعيد جميعا. Thank you so much and see you all of you safe and healthy and happy as well. Thank you. Bye.
Good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Masalama.
Have a good day. Bye.